Evening, everybody. We're going to get going here. My name is Ian Flynn. I'm the Director of Music here at Dartmouth Public Schools. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's a packed crowd, which is awesome to see. So tonight, the point of tonight's concert, this is our first, you can think about this as like a practice run on how to do a concert for our sixth graders. And what we're here to do tonight is just talk about the process of being in the instrumental program here at Dartmouth, whether it's the orchestra or the band, and just kind of some things that go into this and the process of them being young musicians at Dartmouth Public Schools. So the first thing I'd just like to say is thanks to all the musicians that signed up for these programs. It's quite a commitment that goes into being in the band and the orchestra at any public school. A lot of dedication goes into learning an instrument and to being an excellent young musician. A few things that you can do as a parent to help are, when we talk about practicing, I always talk about practicing with a purpose. It's not about the amount of time they practice, it's what they practice, and that there's a focus to that practice time. So to just say they should practice for an hour a day, every day of the week, it's just unrealistic, especially with most people's busy lives. But in the class in a week, they probably have 2 or 3 things that have been introduced in the week, and if they spend anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes in a week total on that material, they're going to be right on track as a musician. Some of their process is going to happen in the school day. A lot of that's going to be that direct instruction and the thing they do with their peers. But the other part is going to be some of that exploratory time where they just can go by themselves and make a lot of mistakes. And that's what's going to happen at first, right? When they're learning anything new, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, but then they kind of get over that barrier, and when they come back into the classroom, they're prepared with that material. And that's the best way for us to support the students here, is to just have the key thing in mind is them participating and being successful. We find that in music education, when students want to exit the program, if they're like, I'm not enjoying this anymore, it's probably because they've fallen behind in some way. What's awesome is that it's basically impossible for any of these students right now to be behind. We're only like 7 weeks into this, right? So they're very, very new to this experience. And what you're gonna hear tonight is gonna be a wide variety, right? You might be thinking like, oh, they can have learned anything in 7 weeks, but I think you're going to be surprised what they can do in just that short amount of time. And that progression happens so quickly in 6th grade. By the time we get to the end of the school year, it's going to be impressive what they're able to do as a musician. But that does take a little bit of dedication. Biggest thing, bringing the instruments to school, being prepared for the class, doing all those kind of things. Actually very basic things when you think about it, but it is a challenge, right? It is actually asking them to be more adult-like and professional, right? And I always encourage my young musicians by saying that what we're trying to do is think like we're professional players on a stage. And if you take that approach to it, you're going to be super successful in anything you do in life, but especially as a musician. The point of music education is to learn music and to be musicians, but at the end of the day, it's to build great learners that have that dedication to perfection, right? So whether they're gonna be a professional musician someday, which is probably like 2% of the students here may work in the music industry in some way. This whole group of people, maybe a student or two might do like what we do as music teachers or work in sound audio or something like that. The rest of them are not gonna do that. That's totally fine, right? And that's not really the point of what we're doing. Some students will find their way in music education, but some other students are gonna just do this, and this is gonna be a thing that's part of their life for the rest of their life. And hopefully, my goal with any musician that comes out of Dartmouth is that someday they're sitting up in the bleachers and they're encouraging their children to also participate in music education, as I'm sure that a lot of you did when you were in school, whether it was band, chorus, or orchestra, or any other performing ensemble. So yeah, so we're really excited for tonight. Lots of musicians here. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Daniels and Miss Church for our first portion of the concert with our orchestra.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. And I would like to also introduce Ms. Church. We together teach the string orchestra here at Dartmouth Schools. And of course, behind us is the 6th grade string orchestra. Students, please stand for a round of applause. As Mr. Flint was saying, tonight is not really a traditional concert. It's really more of a look into the classrooms. And everyone here in this room has been learning fundamental skills and complexities on their instruments. For the string instruments, we've been learning how to, yes, open the case. It is an important part of playing the instrument. How many times have you opened an instrument and had it just flop on the floor? So we've been going through that the last couple of weeks. Taking care of the instrument. Families, do not leave these instruments in places of extreme temperature changes, like next to a heater or in a cold car overnight, especially with winter coming, because that's how you want to protect your investment and protect the instrument. We've been working on our playing and rest positions, our bow grips, and of course the first sounds on our instruments. Also, if your instrument ever gets really out of tune or needs like a quick check-in, teachers can do that, but symphony music is also always there for you to support that, or whatever your local shop is that you're renting from. Now students, let's have an eye on Miss Church as she leads us through our playing position, and please, no skipping steps. And students, let's now get our bow grips ready. Again, no skipping steps. Eyes on Miss Church, please. And a few warm-up exercises to strengthen our hands and make sure our bow grips are set firmly. First, we have spider walks. Yes, that happens almost every time. Oh, good catch. And of course, when we put all of this together, put that string on the bow, we get our first sounds. And I have to tell you, this has been a fantastic 6th grade start. They are just really awesome. Their playing position is spot on. They look like professionals. They have the best sound that we've ever heard before. It's so fantastic. Here we go.
Great job. We have so much fun with this group, and I'm really excited, and I know I speak for all of the music teachers here. I'm really excited about having a concert after only 7 weeks of playing. We have never, ever done this, and we thought it would be a great way for you guys to see what's going on with them, and it truly is unbelievable to hear how well they're doing after just 7 weeks. This is a really, really fun group. We're doing things tonight that we've never done before. And a lot of what we're doing has been, the program has actually been created by the students together. So it's going to be a really good time. So we have been memorizing twinkle variations, variations of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and they're learning different rhythms. And you can see on most of their instruments, some students choose not to put them on their instruments, but most of the instruments have ribbons on them. Every time they memorize a new song, they get a ribbon. So they know by now already 5 or 6 tunes, which is really awesome. And they are going to show you our first real piece of repertoire. We call this I Like Crispy Apples. We are ready, Mr. Daniels. We spend the first 3 months of their playing just teaching them by rote. So they're not learning how to read music just yet. We're starting that in January. These instruments are really, really complex. And when we put music in front of them, it takes away from working on learning the mechanics of the instrument. So we focus a lot on tone and intonation. That's why they have tapes on their instruments so they know where to put their fingers. And so we do a lot of repetition. So they're going to play the same song right now, but with a different rhythm. And that rhythm is Dartmouth strings are awesome. The hardest thing about playing these instruments, believe it or not, is learning how to operate the bow. And there are so many cool things that we can do with the bow. You may have noticed that they're all playing every bow stroke separately. So they're always going down, up, down, up. In our next piece, we're going to show you 2 different bow techniques that are really cool. One is called a slur, and the other is called a tremolo. A slur is when you put more than one note in the same bow, like this. piece that we're going to use to demonstrate these two techniques is from, oh, I'm not even going to tell you. You're going to know. And there's only two notes in this entire piece, written by John Williams. I've lost sound. Thank you. That was Maya Dessau, everybody. And that sort of worked out as planned. The kids were hoping that she would tackle me, but thankfully that didn't happen. All right, we have just a couple more tunes to play for you. And the first one is using another bow technique, or sort of a bow technique. We actually don't use the bows, but we still have to hold them in our hand. And it has a really cool Italian term, which is? It's pizzicato. And it's when you hold your bow like this, they make a fist, and they get their pinchers, and then they put their fingers right on the fingerboard, and we get this really cool, almost guitar-like sound. So we're going to play a piece for you called Big Ben, which is you're going to maybe notice this. It's one of the most iconic medleys that you would hear on the Big Ben chimes. And we have another pizzicato song for you. This is a Scottish tune. It is so much fun to play Irish and Scottish music on these instruments. This was a tune that was actually written in 1852, and it's called The 100 Pipers.
Of course, congratulations to all the musicians here tonight, both here and with the band who is about to play shortly on their very first performance. We hope you've enjoyed this look into our classroom. We do our very best to ensure that each student's success while teaching them the complexities of the instrument. Before we turn it over to the band, we have one last thing for you tonight.
How about another round of applause for the strings, huh? What a great job. Outstanding. I'd just like to welcome all of you to the instrumental music program here. I know Mr. Flint already talked to you about what's to come. I just am so excited to see, and I say the family because I'm so excited to see former students, students that are upperclassmen of some of these students sitting here. Yes, I see you. A student whose wedding I'm going to in a couple of weeks. That's right. That's when you know you're getting old, right? Actually, I have a seventh grader whose mother was one of my students. Anyway, with no further ado, here are our first notes we've learned. Now, we're only going to play 3 notes in this first one. However, we are going to try some quarter notes. Now, if you don't know what that is, basically they are one beat. It's kind of tricky, especially for wind players, because we're asking them to stretch out their ear and only separate the notes with their tongue. Kind of tricky. Everybody try saying 2, 2, 2, 2. That's kind of what they're doing. All right, here we go. I know. I apologize. Right now, you're all questioning your life choices, wondering why am I not playing that well? Anyway, our next selection is, give me a second. Scaling new heights. If you've ever tried playing an instrument, you know that playing scales is an important part of learning all your notes. Well, we just demonstrated 3 of our notes. In this scaling new heights, we're actually going up to 5 notes. And kind of tricky. For some instruments, more tricky than others, but it depends on what notes they're actually learning. So here we go, scaling new heights. Yeah, how was that, huh? So you can see they're learning more than just the notes too. Like the strings, they have to learn certain techniques, and it goes back to even taking their instrument out of the case. For example, having to do it on the floor for a few weeks, and then finally being able to do it on your lap for some instruments. Learning how to sit properly, that's such a big deal. Having your feet planted on the floor, back nice and straight. So basically, I'm asking all of them to essentially imitate someone who's standing up. Because let's face it, it's better airflow-wise, especially for wind players, when you're standing up. Percussion players are lucky. You guys get to stand up all the time. Our next one, we are going to, well, this one I think you'll recognize. This is Merrily We Roll Along. Failed to mention, bringing their instruments up when my hands come up, and then keeping them up at the end of a song. Looks kind of nice, doesn't it? When everybody brings their instrument up together and then down together. Okay, moving on, we have our Claire de la Lune. Thank you. So, as Mr. Flint had mentioned, practicing with a purpose. And you can see already a bunch of students here are doing so. So, congratulations to all of them. But, it's not about the amount all the time. If you practice with purpose and just make it a goal to just pick up the instrument, I suggest oftentimes that students even buy an instrument stand, not just a music stand, but an instrument stand, something that they can set up their instrument immediately when they get home and then put it right on their stand, because oftentimes you're more likely to play it just because it's out there and you're looking at it, it's looking back at you. If you don't believe me, I challenge you to walk into a music store, walk by a conga without hitting it. You have to hit it right. So if they set up their instrument, they're much more likely to play it. And I have them start with a small goal. Just, pick a few notes that you want to play, and even if it's only for a couple of minutes, chances are if they have that small goal, it'll turn into a lot longer. Why? Because it's actually fun. Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay. Our next one, I really can't wait till you guys hear our version at the holiday concert for this one. This is Go Tell Aunt Rhody, although at the holiday concert, it's a whole skit that's kind of involved with this. It's called Aunt Rhody's Appetite, and we're going to have a few people sort of speak out their roles. It's going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to that and a few other things. And yes, we're going to get you guys involved in one of the selections for the holiday concert too, so we'll give you more information as we get closer. Here is Go Tell Aunt Rhody. Okay, now, please raise your hand if at some point you've played an instrument. Some point you tried learning an instrument. Then you'll recognize this for sure. This is the most famous beginner song of all time, Hot Cross Buns. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We apologize. We really wanted to play a couple of these Halloween songs, but you know what? We just might save it for the holiday concert. We almost got there, but didn't quite finish it in time. If you want to hear one of them, though, come join us on Halloween. We're playing, the 7th and 8th graders are playing. I invited anybody in 6th grade who actually was able to pull it off to join us, and that is at a parade over by Potter School. So the parade is tiny, tiny parade. It starts at the fire station near Walmart, goes to Potter School and back. So we invite you guys to come check it out. It's going to be fun. A lot of costume, picture taking, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. Here's Mr. Flint.
Like I said at the beginning, this is about a demonstration of learning, and really impressive tonight for both ensembles. So it was one more big round of applause for Orchestra and our band. Orchestra, if you can stand up. Everybody up. And like the perception, you can grab a seat. Thank you so much, musicians. The perception might be like, I don't know how they're going to do this in 7 weeks, but it's really impressive, right? And the biggest thing is that they're making great sounds and they're developing. And these concerts are kind of checkpoints through the year, right? And you're going to see that growth, like they said, as we go through the school year. So the biggest thing is if you can just encourage them, right? Even if they're struggling and we go through the school year and then it's like January, it's like, oh, I'm not sure, I got a lot going on. I'll tell you what, if you just push through, you're going to get to the next concert and the next concert, and they're just going to continue to grow and develop as musicians, and it's going to be way worth it as a family. Because you want to, I always feel like, you want them to participate in sports, you want them to learn music, you want them to be good academic students, right? And we can encourage all these things in our public school. So this is part of the school day, and a couple concerts a year, and they can be awesome at this. So once again, thanks for coming out tonight, and we will see you in a few weeks. All right, thank you, everybody.